It's 2 in the morning and you're scrolling back through old messages from someone who made you feel small, someone who canceled plans without explanation, who made you question things you knew were true, who left you apologizing for things that weren't your fault. And somewhere in the middle of reading their old good morning text, your chest aches. Not with anger, with longing. You catch yourself and think, what is wrong with me? They hurt me. I know they hurt me. So why does some part of me want them back? This isn't weakness, it isn't low self-esteem, and it isn't proof you secretly enjoy being treated badly. It's something far stranger, wired into you long before this particular person ever existed. And once you see the mechanism clearly, the ache stops feeling like betrayal from your own mind and starts feeling like something you can finally understand. Start with a fact that sounds wrong until you sit with it. Your brain doesn't actually miss the person. It misses a chemical pattern they were producing in you. Think about how a relationship with genuine highs and lows actually operates on the body. It isn't a steady stream of comfort. It's a cycle. Tension, then relief. A fight, then a tearful reconciliation. Silence, then a sudden flood of attention. Each time that cycle completes, your brain releases a wave of relief and reward chemicals, the same neural circuitry involved in any powerful craving. And here's the part that changes everything. The brain doesn't register the good moments in isolation. It registers the entire cycle, pain followed by relief, as the reward, which means the person who hurt you and the person who then apologized and made it better were never two separate categories in your nervous system. They were one single loop, and your brain became attached to the loop itself, not simply to the kindness inside it. This is why a relationship that runs hot and cold can create a stronger physiological attachment than one that's calm and consistent the whole way through. A steady, secure relationship doesn't generate the same dramatic chemical swing because there's no tension demanding relief. It's like the difference between a slow, warm bath and a cold plunge followed by a hot shower. The second one feels more intense, more alive, more memorable, even though the first one is actually better for you. Your body doesn't confuse intensity with quality. It just responds to intensity more forcefully, and it will keep reaching for what activated it the hardest, regardless of whether that thing was good for you. This connects to something researchers have observed directly in the brain's reward circuitry. The areas that light up during intense longing after a breakup closely resemble the areas that activate during substance cravings. Not emotionally similar, neurologically similar, which means when you say, "I miss them so much it physically hurts," that isn't a metaphor. Some part of your nervous system is running a genuine withdrawal process, chasing a supply of chemical activation it got used to receiving, indifferent to whether the source of that activation was ever safe. But there's a second mechanism sitting underneath the chemistry, and it's the one that explains why you don't just miss the good parts. You sometimes miss the specific person, flaws included, more than you missed people who were actually kind to you. This has to do with how the brain assigns meaning to unpredictability. When someone treats you consistently well, your nervous system doesn't have to work very hard interpreting them. There's no mystery, so there's no obsessive analysis. But when someone is inconsistent, warm one day, cold the next, affectionate then suddenly distant, your brain treats that inconsistency as a problem that needs solving. It starts running a background process, constantly trying to figure out what will make them stay warm, what caused the coldness, what you can do differently next time. This ongoing mental project, uncomfortable as it is, actually increases how much your brain is engaged with that person. You end up thinking about them more, not despite the instability, but because of it. The unpredictability itself becomes a kind of magnet, pulling your attention back again and again, looking for the pattern that would finally make sense of them. This is part of why you can sometimes remember more details about someone unstable than about someone who was steady and kind. The steady person didn't require ongoing analysis. The unpredictable one did. And analysis, over time, gets mistaken by the brain for intimacy. You weren't necessarily closer to them. You were simply more preoccupied with them. And preoccupation feels a lot like connection from the inside, even when it's actually closer to a puzzle you never got to finish solving. Now here's where it gets more personal, because there's a third layer underneath the chemistry and the unpredictability, and it has to do with what the relationship was quietly standing in for. Sometimes what you miss isn't really the person at all. It's the specific way they made you feel needed, or chosen, or important, even if that feeling was manufactured through crumbs rather than consistency. If someone made you feel deeply special during the good moments, even if those moments were rare, even if they were often followed by pain, your brain files away "this is what it feels like to matter to someone," and it will chase that feeling long after it stopped chasing the actual person. This is especially true if that specific feeling, being chosen, being prioritized, being seen, was in short supply somewhere earlier in your life. The ache isn't always about the ex. Sometimes it's about a much older hunger that this person briefly, imperfectly fed. This is why walking away from someone who hurt you can feel like losing something enormous, even when everyone around you can clearly see they were bad for you. From the outside, people say, "You're better off, they treated you terribly, why do you even miss them?" And all of that can be true, and you can still miss them, because the missing was never really a vote of confidence in how they treated you. It was your nervous system registering the loss of a supply, attention, affection, the specific sensation of being wanted, regardless of how badly that supply was managed. There's a particularly cruel twist buried in this, and it's worth naming directly, because it explains something that confuses almost everyone who's been through it. The missing tends to intensify, not fade, in the days right after you finally get some distance. This feels backward. Shouldn't distance bring relief? But your brain, cut off from a source it had built an entire chemical routine around, doesn't calmly accept the absence. It escalates. It searches harder. It remembers the good moments in higher resolution than they actually deserve, while the painful moments get quietly dimmed down, almost like your mind is trying to talk you into going back. Because going back, to a system built on habit and craving, looks like the fastest route back to relief. This isn't your judgment failing, it's withdrawal, running exactly the script it's designed to run, indifferent to what's actually good for you long term. So what does it actually look like to work with this, instead of being blindsided by it? The first shift is recognizing that the ache is not a verdict on whether the relationship was good. It's a report on how intensely your reward system was engaged, and intensity was never a reliable measure of health. If anything, in relationships, the two are sometimes inversely related. The calmest, most stable connections often generate the least dramatic longing precisely because they never created the tension relief loop that produces craving in the first place. Missing someone intensely doesn't mean you lost something rare. It sometimes just means you lost the specific source of a chemical cycle your nervous system had adapted to depend on. The second shift is separating the specific person from the feeling they briefly gave you. The sensation of being chosen, of mattering, of being seen clearly by another person. That feeling is real and worth wanting, but it was never something only that person specifically could provide. It's a feeling other people, safer people, are capable of generating too, minus the accompanying damage. The grief isn't really for them, it's for the version of connection you got a glimpse of and mistakenly believed only existed attached to that one unstable source. And the third shift, maybe the hardest one, is giving the craving time to run its course without acting on it. Withdrawal, in almost every form it takes, has a shelf life. It peaks, and then if it's not repeatedly fed, it recedes. Every time you reach back out during that peak, a text, a late-night call, checking their profile one more time, you don't calm the craving, you reset the clock, feeding the exact loop you're trying to exit. The version of you at 2 in the morning scrolling old messages isn't weak. She's mid-withdrawal, at the hardest part of a process that does eventually end, whether or not it feels that way right now. None of this means the person didn't hurt you, it doesn't erase what happened, and it isn't a reason to go back. If anything, it's the opposite, a way of understanding that the ache pulling you toward them isn't wisdom. It's chemistry, doing exactly what chemistry does, mistaking a familiar pattern for something worth returning to. Your nervous system learned its lesson from repetition, not from truth. And repetition can be unlearned, slowly, the same way it was built, not through willpower in a single moment, but through time, distance, and the quiet, patient work of letting the old loop finally go uncompleted, until your brain stops waiting for it. What's something you missed about someone, long after you knew, clearly, that they weren't good for you? If this finally explained an ache you never had words for, subscribe. This is exactly the kind of thing worth understanding about your own mind.